Hello and welcome. I am the Imperishable. On today's video, we are having a look at the Skeleton Horse Archers as our unit deep dive, the first one of the year. So I'm going to be talking about its profile, its special rules, and then I've got it set up so on Warhol we can have a look at kind of how we can use them both as kind of defensive pieces and a nuance to our opponent, and how we can kind of try to bait out certain opponents and just use them just as generic, just great utility pieces. So let's get onto the unit data cards and then let's see how we can use it in game. So here is the unit card. So Skeleton Horse Archers, they move 8, so they're a fast kind of like Cav. Their weapon skill Ballistic skill 2. The champion, its upgrade on it is Ballistic skill 3. Strength toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 2, 1 attack each. But don't forget you also get the attack from the horse, so they're basically like 2 attacks each. And they're only leadership 5. Obviously with Tomb Kings we don't really care, because obviously we don't do panic tests, leadership tests most of the time. It's more if we're lost our Hierophant. And there are 11 points a model, plus 6 for the Master of Horse, so the champion. So straight off the bat, so they are light cavalry, they're on small base sizes, and their unit strength, unit size 5+. So minimum cost for this unit is 55 points. And what's really great about them is their core in both the normal Grand Army and also the Cult. But they are, I believe, special, which is really annoying, in the Royal Host. So straight off the bat, these fill out your core. Tomb King's core is really good just innately, but this for me makes them really good. The ability to be able to have something this cheap, and when we get into the rules, this efficient in core, can make your core really just great. So equipment, they have warbows, so it's just your normal 24-inch range, volley fire, etc. So options, they can take light armor. I personally wouldn't. Just the 6-up regen. If anything that's really going to shoot them, it's going to be stuff like handguns. They might have stuff that has APs. AP1 is quite common around most, so I just don't think it's worth it. You can give them full command, and you can give them chariot runners. So this is one of the ways you can kind of play them. You can either play them more to annoy your opponent to get in there, or you can use them more to protect yourself. So, or get your chariots in there, because you can charge through with chariots, and it makes them really good. So it makes them really good in the Royal Host if you're going down that chariot spam, or just using them and having one unit of just chariots is just quite nice. But let's look at their specials, will make them great. So they've got arrows with a staff, same as basically any of our shooting units. So we're always going to hit on 5s. The champion will hit on a 4. Carry on dead, so just, we don't crumble, we crumble, sorry, we don't panic, etc. We're open order, regen 6+, just the basic regen. Reserve move, okay, this is the first kind of thing. So we're undead, so we can't march, but this is just March 2.0, so we're allowed to move up, shoot our weapons. We could be at 24, we could have moved, there could be so much from blocking us. I'm still hitting you on a 5. Sorry. And then we can fall back our 8 inches or use it to skirt around our opponent. We can scout. So this is why I really like taking them, because I find them, their shooting is not great. Hitting on 5s, winning most things on 4s and 5s. There's no AP. Just trying to get some weights down, shots downfield. But they don't take a drop. And depending on where your opponent is deployed, if there's a place for you to put them, because it's not big footprint, and because they're skirmishers, you can kind of get them around, and we'll have a look at on Wall how that can work. Skirmishers, as I say, so it just makes them just really great. So obviously skirmishers, if you have them in the awkward kind of line up to try and get shoot, most of the time you might be able to force yourself to have cover, etc. But I'm arrows and staff, so I don't care. So I just need 1 point to see you, and then swift stride. So this is more for like, if we're charging or running someone down. So there's kind of a couple ways you can look to use them. So if you use them to kind of charge War Machine, you can kind of charge from quite far away. You've got a threat range of 17 all the way up, 17, which is great. But also, if let's say I've pinned down a dragon, I'm going to cause it to flee. Let's say I used it with my Skelton Archer blob, and I'm just constantly challenging out. I'm winning the combat race because they can't do anything, and I'm in the flank with these Skelton Horse Archers. If we can make them break, we can kind of chase them down. So it just gives us that kind of speed and mobility. So overall, Skeleton Horse Archers to me are one of the best units, just because they're cheap. They've got so many uses, and we'll go over a few in a moment, that they can be used in any game versus basically anyone. You can use them versus gyro spam, so if they're coming at you, you can just block it. So, oh, you can't fully see my unit, so you're at another -1. If you want to do it versus, let's say, big Gorgons, you can use the frenzy bait, that they have to kind of just follow you. You stay out on their thing, so even if they constantly keep failing, they're constantly just chasing you, and you can basically just take out big threats out. Or if you say they've got loads of war machines, just plonk them in a corner. So a big thing for me at the moment is obviously I'm looking at the Welsh Open and these kind of other ones. So I've got the Black County tournament up in April. We've got a teams tournament up in June that's using missions. So this is a really good way to get some quick, fast unit strength. Units that can deploy in certain locations. They can grab an objective if they do those and then run back. So just overall, they're just really efficient and they're just really cheap and they're cool. So let's jump into Warhol and let's see what happens. So I am in Warhol now. So I've gone for something just looking at a flank attack. So one of the missions that we can kind of play. So I'm obviously going to put these guys 2 units into scout. So I usually play with either, I go quite small, so like units of 5 all the way up to 8, just because they can block out forests, they can tag along things, and they can deal with things there. So in this mission, in this flank attack, my opponent has got his kind of big core in the middle, and he's put his demigriffs on this side of it. So in this mission, all the way up over here on the right hand side is completely clear, and unless they've put a unit here facing this way ready to go, or like a flying monster skirmisher here, my guys here are completely fine. They're protected, they're not going to get hurt, whatnot. So it's a really good position. So if let's say I get turn 1 and I place them here, I know it's not great at all, I can go 8. Oh, that's 6.6. I can shoot, I can then potentially go another 8. And it's starting to get to the point where like, oh, I'm 9.9, so you won't have to do a march test. But if I get to a position where I'm just within 8, with their big kind of block, or their big kind of main threats, I can just start calling them to do march test. It can just start being really a nuisance. Also something that I remember playing one of the first games all the way back in February. I was playing versus my mate John, who was running these ogres. I just had them in a position like directly behind a unit. He gave a fullback in good order and just went straight off the board. So I killed, I think it was a 4-man unit of ogres, by just having position stuff there. And you can make it really extended out with a few models. So if, let's say, I drop these down to 5, I can still very nicely do something like this. Because they can't end, make it so I'm an inch away. So whatever they roll, these guys are going off. I could probably even do it with just 3 models, forcing them to come. If they fall back in good order, they can go off. So, and because I have the speed of 16 inches with a shoot, I'm most likely going to get to positions I want to do. Okay, a big also next one is having a look at something like Iron Drakes. So, Iron Drakes are really, really strong. They're really good. I think basically every dwarf player runs them. But a big kind of issue with them is, yes, they're slow moving, but they've only got 18-inch range on majority of their weapons. So I've played Reese, who's I've played on the channel quite a lot of times, at LGT with these Iron Drakes. So I had a unit, I think it was 8 Skelton Horse Archers. I just sat kind of 18.1 away. Basically meaning that if he wanted to turn around and face me, he's going to be out of range, or if he, that kind of thing. And then he starts trying to move after me with his 3 inches, wanting to shoot. I just make it so he can't shoot me. And it gets to a point where his Iron Drakes, there's no point in him trying to go after my Skelton Horse Archers and he can't deal with it. And then with these Skelton Horse Archers, you just start plinking off attacks. So as I said, at LGT, it was a unit of 8. So I hit twice. I didn't win that time. But over 6 turns, you kill 1 or 2 or 3 Iron Drakes. If I kill 3 Iron Drakes with a unit of Skelton Horse Archers, I've made my points. And it just starts whittling down them things. It's just a volume of fire. As I say, I just need to see one guy. They can all see this one guy, so I'm always going to be hitting on 5s. So it's a really good way of kind of dealing with Iron Drakes. Next one is, once again, I'm taking it from LGT, is using of stuff like Gorgons and other frenzy stuff, and using them as a really good frenzy bait. So what's great about using them versus Gorgons is they don't have Swiss Stride, they have 7-inch moves, so the maximum they're 13. And with Skelton horse archers, is they've got, like skirmishers, they've got to go after the nearest one. So what you do is basically with the wheel, I've got to make it so I'm 12.9 away, just so they can always kind of charge me. Or over here, like 12.9 away, something like here, just so you can see me. So if I don't get that turn one, and all these guys all the way over here, he has to go to that nearest one, so he has to charge. See if the builder's not there. And if he fails it, he's stumbling like to here, and then I can just constantly keep moving. So after he's failed that first charge, he keeps moving, he's going after things, etc. If he makes the charge, great, cool, go and kill some Skelton horse archers. I'm not going to cry about it. But it's just this thing, I've got to just keep him honest. So for him to try and get to like here to line up with his 7-inch movement, like this is bad play, but like it just makes it really hard for them to use their frenzy stuff. And depending on where they put their frenzy items kind of thing, so if he's got a more sensor, let's use these as dragon ogres for this case, I could potentially put it in a position where he has to either charge with both, and he's most likely going to fail both, or you get to a point where these guys can't see him or are not in range, etc., but they're in range of this guy, and then they start blocking up their movement. So using your Skelton horse archers affecting the opponent's movement is massive. So that's kind of 3 ways of how to kind of use them really effectively. A final way would be versus, let's say, a war machine. So obviously, I should not go too much damage versus a war machine at shooting, but most of them are T6 or T7, so you're always going to need 6 to wound. So let's grab a war machine. Let's go with special. Let's go with cannon. Okay, so I've got a cannon here. It's at the backfield trying to shoot. I've got to go 2 ways. I can just be a nuisance. I can just jump out, try and shoot 5 times. Or I hit once. Oh, I did a wound, okay? Most war machines don't have any armor of any type. So dwarf war machine is a bit weird, so they've got a 6-up save, which he fails if he takes a wound. Do that over 3 turns, it can become a nuisance. But what I can also do is just start pressuring. Because as soon as I get to charge, it's a dice game overall. He's only going to have 3 attacks back into me. They're usually poor weapon skill and strength and what weapons they've got. But I've got, like, let's say 8 attacks. Because I'll get to go in. Let's make them like this. Can I get 4 in? So I can get 4 into combat, just about, because of the size of them, because they're only 25 mils. So that's going to be 8 attacks. Once again, this time I'm hitting with 4s, and then this time I'm winning with 3. Obviously, I don't. The whole idea is I've now blocked up this cannon quite a bit, and it's just to be a nuisance. You mess up their plans, and it just forces them to have to deal with this. Really, overall, just a bad unit, bad stats that goes down without a hitch. But if they don't have those counter options, such as their own Skelton horse archers, or maybe even like a gyrocopter trying to go after them, it will cause issues. If, let's say, you're versus a proper shooty army and the kind of opponent kind of thing, the final way we can have a look to using them is, I'm going to take this as my big kind of Skelton archer blob that I've been playing with for LGT. Is just to do this. Now, unless they are coming from exactly this way, I can make it even worse by just covering this whole one guy. This unit now has cover. So they're at -1 to hit. So if they're at long range, it's -2. If they've moved, it's -3. If I've got Glistering Robe, it's another -. If I've got my Casket up, it's another -. And what's great about these is, because I've got reserve move, I can put myself in a position where 8 inches away from the far side, I could potentially get them all if I do it like this. 1 column, something like this. And obviously I have to give a millimeter gap, but that's going to give me hard cover. So now for 55 points versus a ballistic skill shooting army, I've made it either they can't shoot them at all and they have to waste all their ammunition on Skelton horse archers, who then once again will have, let's say, maybe give them the 5-up ward from ramparts, or just the innate 6-up ward and -1 from the casket. I just made sure my most important unit is just safe for 55 points for a unit of 5. So that's the Skeleton Horse Archer. They are one of the most useful units for a Tomb King's army, personally. They can do so much. So depending on what missions you're playing, so if it's like, looking at Welsh Breakpoint, just got to get them to the opposition side. Unit strength 10, just going to sit in the corner. They're not going to do anything all game. I'm going to win the mission. They're there to stop ballistic school shooting. They're there to deal with kind of war machines. They're there to deal with frenzies. And also, it's just another kind of block that you can use for something really big and threatening. You just march them straight up. You go the inch away, but at an angle. And because they have to touch the nearest one, you can get it to them kind of to mess up their angling and where they kind of overrun. They're one of probably the best kind of utility screening units, personally to me, in the game, because they can shoot back. With someone like Plague or Rust on a unit, you might kill a couple guys a turn, and it's just the constant barrage. And as I say, if one guy's alive, I just bring them back up with my Lich Priest. So thank you for watching. I hope this unit deep dive, you've learned something on how to use Skeleton Archers, and maybe that if you're playing against them, you really should try and just get rid of them straight away. Have a lovely day. Ta-ra!